Board of Water Supply, keeping Oahu refreshed for 90 years. You don't have to go to extremes to save water. For easy water-saving tips, visit boardofwatersupply.com.
Located deep in Halava Valley, the Halava Xeriscape Garden is home to attractive xeric plant displays, showcasing examples of saving water outdoors in lawns and landscaped areas. From September to May, the Honolulu Board of Water Supply and Friends of Halava Xeriscape Garden host a variety of water conservation workshops on Wednesdays or Saturdays at the garden. Workshops come in all shapes and sizes, from lecture-based for the inquisitive mind to interactive for those who aren't afraid of getting a little dirty. Interested in learning more? Visit boardofwatersupply.com/workshops.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. And I was absent last month, so I want to take this opportunity to wish all of you a Happy New Year, even though it's almost the end of Q1. But I wanted to definitely wish everyone Happy New Year. So this is February 24th, 2020. This is the regular meeting of the Board of Water Supply. We're going to start with the agenda. The first board action we have for consideration is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held on January 27th, 2020.
I have an amendment.
Okay.
On page 12 of 16, the first line should delete the last word of the sentence and the second line should read, why did we settle on 3.2 feet? Just for fun.
Okay, I do have that in front of me. I do see that, and I would characterize it as a clerical amendment. Which is there any discussion on the proposed amendment?
Motion to approve as amended.
Okay, motion to approve as amended. Okay, second. So it's moved and seconded that we approve the minutes as amended by Vice Chair Sproul. Is there any further discussion? Any further amendments, corrections, modifications? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries and the minutes are approved. The next item is the adoption of resolution number 907, 2020 with respect to the acceptance of gifts to the Board of Water Supply from various donors in support of the 2020 Water Conservation Week program. Chair recognizes Kathleen.
Thank you, Chair, Manager, Board members. We recommend the adoption of attached resolution 907-2020 accepts proposed gifts to the Board of Water Supply in support of the 2020 Water Conservation Week program. The donor's total value of these gifts is $13,500. For the record, Sodexo is donating $3,000 in kind, Hawaii Financial Federal Credit Union $2,000, Friends of Halava Xeriscape Garden $2,000, Times Supermarkets $2,000, Aloha Pacific Federal Credit Union $2,000, Alexander and Baldwin $1,000, Hawaii Energy $1,000, Paysha $500. The conservation program, well established in its 42nd year of existence, is a successful public education program for Oahu students in grades kindergarten through 12 that instills the value of drinking water and its efficient use. Studies have shown that youth who embrace water conservation practices at an early age are more likely to encourage their parents to be water efficient and later raise their own water smart families. So we hope the board will address this and accept this donation. I did want to point out one change, and we're very grateful for former ESO Robert Morita. He was able to get Aloha Pacific Federal Credit Union to increase their donation to us up from $1,000 to $2,000, which makes them a platinum sponsor. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 907, 2020. This is the acceptance of gifts to the Board of Water Supply from various donors, as Ms. Pani Nui elaborated. For the interest of time, I'm going to dispense reading the actual resolution. The resolution has been was included with the public notice, I believe, and
Yes.
is will be
We'll
be
include
part
it
of
in the
the
minutes as part of the board's action.
part of the record. But basically, it's for our Water Conservation Week, including the 20,000 water conservation calendars. All those in favor, is there any discussion first? Okay, without having no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries. Please
Mahalo.
express our thank yous to the donors.
Thank you. We will.
All right, next up is the adoption of resolution number 908, 2020, authorizing up to 245 million. It's a principal amount series bond. Chair recognizes Mr. Joe Cooper.
Good afternoon, Board Chair, Board members, Manager. We recommend the adoption and approval of Resolution Number 908, 2020, which authorizes and approves the issuance of Board of Water Supply bonds at one time not to exceed $245 million. These bonds will be used to pay for three things. One is to pay for the capital program as authorized in the budget. It's also to pay for the issuance of the bonds, and then it's to fund a trust fund to refund and redeem some of our other outstanding bonds. I will point out that also as part of this resolution, we have included the preliminary official statement is attached, which is also approved as part of this resolution. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Cooper or the department? Okay, may I entertain a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve resolution number 908, 2020, authorizing up to 245 million for the for Series 2020 bonds. And the purpose is for the capital budget as elaborated by Mr. Cooper. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries. The resolution number 908, 2020 is approved. The actual resolution was included in the public notice and will be made part of the record. Yes. All right, moving on to the next item, item number 4. This is the adoption of resolution number 909, 2020. This is authorizing amendments to bond resolution number 717, 2001. Chair recognizes Mr. Joe Cooper again.
Good afternoon again, board members, Chair. We recommend the adoption of resolution number 909, 2020, amending the water system revenue bond resolution 717, 2001. This is the master bond resolution, which governs much of the covenants and restrictions on all of our bonds. There's basically, these are mostly administrative changes. There's basically 3 of them. One, as some of you may be aware, the LIBOR is going away or will go away in the future. And so this is just adding language to let us substitute another index exchange rate when the LIBOR goes away. The other one is to allow us to exclude certain subsidy payments from the calculation of debt service. This has to do with things like Build America bonds, and the third one is to give us flexibility in calculating debt service on balloon indebtedness. Most of these are just technical administrative changes. They actually have no effect on any of our current outstanding bonds or debt, but in the case that those issues do become relevant to us, we will have updated our resolutions to the most current laws.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Any questions? Okay, may I entertain a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve resolution number 909-2020, authorizing amendments to the bond resolution number 717-2001. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, the motion carries. We are approving resolution number 909-2020. The actual resolution and the attachments thereto will be included in the record and was included in the public
Yes.
notice. All right, next item. And Mr. Cooper, you can stay at the podium, I believe. This is the financial statements and supplementary information with independent auditor's report for the fiscal years that ended June 30th, 2019 and 2018. Chair recognizes Mr. Joe Cooper along with our auditors.
Thank you, Chair, and members of the board. Our auditors, NNK CPAs, have completed the audit of our financial statements and federal awards and issued an unmodified opinion. They indicated that there was no weakness in our internal controls. And now I would like to turn it over to our auditors, Lawrence and Ryan from NNK, to do their presentation to the board of their findings. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board Chair, members of the board. My name is Lawrence Chu with NNK CPAs Inc., and with me is Ryan Iwani. So the scope of our audit was to express an opinion on the fair presentation of the Board of Water Supply's financial statements as of and for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2019. And then we also performed, as part of that audit, we had to perform some compliance work applicable to federal requirements that could have a direct and material effect on each of the major federal programs. So that's kind of what they call the uniform guidance. So our audits were performed in accordance with auditing standards in the United States of America and also the applicable standards, government auditing standards, and also the uniform guidance. And then with that, I'll let Ryan cover the summary of our results.
Good afternoon. So kind of rehash what Joe had mentioned. In connection with our audit, we are pleased to announce that we were able to issue an unmodified opinion on the Board of Water Supply's financial statements, which means that in our professional opinion, we believe that the Board of Water Supply's financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. So a clean opinion, the best opinion that we could give. In connection with the audit, we did not identify any material weaknesses in internal control over financial reporting, nor did we identify or report any significant deficiencies in internal control over financial reporting. There were no instances of material non-compliance to the financial statements that were noted. With respect to the compliance portion of our audit, we also did not identify any material weaknesses in internal control over compliance or any significant deficiencies in internal control over compliance. We were able to issue an unmodified opinion on compliance for each of the Board of Water Supply's major federal programs. There's actually only one in fiscal year 2019. And there were no audit findings disclosed that are required to be reported in accordance with the uniform guidance. As I mentioned before, as far as for fiscal year 2019, the Board of Water Supply's sole major federal program was the capitalization grants for drinking water state revolving funds, the SRF fund loans that the Board of Water Supply has. The dollar threshold used to distinguish between Type A and Type B programs was $750,000, as was the case in the prior year. And the Board of Water Supply qualified as a low-risk auditee for the fiscal year 2019 audit. Okay, the last thing we wanted to cover is some of the required communication. So at the conclusion of each audit, we are required to communicate certain information to those charged with governance pertaining to significant audit-related matters. We provided this communication to the board in a letter dated October 31, 2019. I don't want to go into the details of the information contained in that letter. However, I did want to kind of summarize some of the major topics that are contained in that letter. So for starters, the auditor's views, our views about the Board of Water Supply's significant accounting policies, sensitive accounting estimates, and financial statement disclosures. So for fiscal year 2019, there really were no major changes in any of these areas. In previous years, we've had to kind of deal with In previous years, we'd had to deal with certain somewhat major changes to accounting standards related to pension or OPEB. There was nothing like that in fiscal year 19, so it was a very straightforward audit. No major changes to financial reporting or disclosure requirements in 2019. There were no significant difficulties that were encountered during the course of the audit, and there were no disagreements with management about financial accounting, reporting, or auditing matters that arose during the course of the audit. And lastly, none of the misstatements detected as a result of audit procedures were considered material, either individually or in the aggregate, to the Board of Water Supply's financial statements taken as a whole. So that is kind of a summary of some of the significant audit-related matters. Nothing of real, nothing real major in that letter. Does anybody have any questions about anything discussed or anything about the audit that you have for us today?
Members, any questions?
Your copies of the audit were distributed, I think, in the December or January timeframe for the board members to get copies of the audit report ahead of time.
Okay, if there are no questions, Mr. Chu and Mr. Iwani, thank you very much for joining us today and making the presentation and being available for questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you to the manager and Joel and all the help they provided during the course of the audit. Without their help, the audit would obviously not go as smoothly as it did. So, thank you very much.
I just would like to add, I just want to thank Ryan and Lawrence for doing a very thorough audit. It's very important that the independent financial audit is done thoroughly and properly, and they did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
All right, as that was an item for information, we are going to move on to the next item for information, which is a financial update for the quarter ending December 31st, 2019. Chair recognizes Mr. Joe Cooper.
Good afternoon, board members, Chair. This is the quarterly financial performance report for the second quarter, July 2019 through December 2019. Our actual revenues were $125.5 million. This exceeded our budgeted revenues of $123.5 million. So we were about 2% or $2 million, I'm sorry, over budget or higher in revenue. Our operating costs were $81 million, which was about $19 million less than our budgeted operating costs of $100 million. And finally, combining those numbers, our net revenue was $44 million, was double or about $22 million over our budgeted net revenue. So in general, our costs and revenues were in line with prior years. Our budget is slightly over budget and in line with slightly over budget and slightly over last year's revenues by about the same amount as our rate increase that we had this year. Our operating costs are in line with last year, and net revenue and budget is up over budget. Looking at some of the cost drivers of of our operating expenses, we have personnel costs, which are about 16% or $4 million under budget. We have material, services, and supplies at about $15 million under budget. We have equipment at $1.4 million under budget. And then we have debt service and utilities, which were pretty much onto budget. This is a slide that shows a little more detail of some of the variances that the different divisions experience on their operating to actual budget. The staff from the Executive Support Office and the different divisions are here available to answer any questions that you might have on any of these specific variances or their departments. Most of these, I believe, are timing differences. If there are no questions,
I have a quick question, sorry.
yes.
The deferral of the two recycle plant projects, is that Milinani and Alawai?
Let me ask Barry to answer the
Sorry.
question so I don't misspeak.
Thank you. I wish they were, but they're not
Okay.
even on the CIP, those
Okay,
projects,
okay.
yeah. But those two projects are pipeline improvements to the city of Kapolei, but because we're working on the expansion of the recycled water treatment plant, our focus was on the expanding the capacity at the plant, and so we're moving the pipelines to next year.
Okay.
Yeah. And it should improve the service to city of Kapolei.
Milinani and Alawai are actually just at this planning level right now.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Right, and, yeah, they require collaboration.
and support.
Of course. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Members, any questions?
Okay.
If not, just wanted to say, we really appreciate the detail of the budget variances, so it's a lot easier to understand the numbers. So thank you very much for doing that. And then for the deferred projects or the projects that were because of a timing, I hope we can get to those this year.
Likewise, yes.
Any other questions? If not, thank you for the report.
Oh, there's more to the report. I'll remember that the next time.
In case there are any more questions.
Okay.
There's a few more slides here.
And this slide just presents our total operating costs year to date as percentages. And again, obviously fixed costs are our largest percentage at about $26 million, incorporating about a third of our costs, followed by materials, services, and supplies at 28% of the cost. The next one, the next slide shows our expenditures related to budget during the different categories on a year-to-date basis. Most of the, well, except for personnel and materials, which are under budget, most of the other three categories are pretty close to budget. This slide presents our operating expenses on a monthly basis and a year-to-date variance basis. Again, in total, our expenditures are about 19% under budget. There's some variation in the monthly fluctuations, but again, that's mostly due to different timing differences. And finally, there's a monthly slide showing our revenues. Our revenues are about just under 2% over our budget, which is pretty good, about $2 million. And in July, there's generally a lag due to monthly variations in the interest we receive. And that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to address any other questions or comments that you have at this time.
Any further questions or comments?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you
Joey,
very much.
maybe this. I'm just trying to think of how to cast this. I think this is my third budget in the mid-year.
Okay.
And I'm always baffled by why our expenditures are so much lower than projected. This 6-month term is 20% down, and yet our revenues are the same. So we're collecting money from our ratepayers, we're not spending it. So how can we adjust the way we forecast our budget so that we're more accurate. I realize we catch up. A lot of projects start getting jammed into the back end of the year, and we typically come closer. But isn't there a way to budget better so that we're closer in the mid-year?
I can try to answer that, Joe, jump in also if you want to. What we're looking at, we're developing the FY21 budget, is try to get the programs to project when they realistically will use the funds by which quarter. So there are 4 quarters in the fiscal year. So we're trying to be very more aware and more careful on when the items are budgeted by quarter. So if like a vacant position, we're just starting the process, we don't think we need full year salary, then we put the salary, or maybe a half year salary or a quarter year salary in the 4th quarter or 3rd and 4th quarter, knowing that we have to go through a pretty lengthy civil service recruitment process. So we're trying to do that. It's a work in progress. Board member soon. We're not there yet, but we're getting closer. Some of it also is due to the fact that this is an annual budget. So we have to also go through a procurement process, especially if it requires going through a procurement process that begins when the budget's approved, which starts on July 1st. And it depends on the length of that procurement process. So although I would love to do this more, push more of the expenditures up in the 1st and 2nd quarter, so actually get some large projects out there.
We're just projecting more expenditures.
Yeah, try to be more careful when we project. I don't have the full answer, I'm just going to admit that very readily. I don't have the answer yet, but we're still trying to work hard at it. It's very valid. Joe, you want to add anything?
Well, I mean, I think the ESO, the Executive Support Office, Stuart is in charge of the budget, and I know that we're trying to make incremental improvements, and but as we do an annual budget, it takes us a year to see the results of those improvements, and then so it takes us a while to catch up. But yes, I've been here 6 years, and I've noticed this too. And yes, it's hard. It's hard for me to stand up here and explain it every quarter too. But we are making attempts to refine our budget.
I have a question. The revenue, budgeted revenue, was that, did that take into account the rate adjustments that were made?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, now I can thank you again. All right, next, moving on to the next item, item number 4, capital improvement program quarterly update.
At this point, Kathy Mitchell is actually at the state legislature at a hearing right now, so I'll provide the report.
Oh, legislative bills update.
Yeah, legislative bills update. I think that's next on the agenda, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. City Council, if you, thank you, Dee. If you could move it down a little bit, you can stay there and just move it down for me. Get to the City Council matters. So in the City Council, there were actually 2 things that we testified on and will be testifying on. One is a resolution supporting a affordable housing project for seniors, Kokua Senior Affordable Housing Project in Honolulu. 16 to 20 story building, 200 to 23 to 234 senior affordable rental housing units in the project. So it was adopted by the City Council in January of this year. The other resolution is actually, I'm glad to report, the reappointment of Dana Kapuala Sproat to the board.
Big round of applause.
She's not appointed yet, but she's going through a second reading, and actually that's coming up this Wednesday, and I'll be there Wednesday at the Public Works, Public Infrastructure, Technology, and Sustainability Committee of the City Council, Resolution 20-4. Moving on.
What time is it?
That meeting starts at 1 o'clock, and Kapua is first on the agenda for that day. So if you can make it 1 o'clock on Wednesday in the committee room on the 2nd floor of the Honolulu Hale. Next are state legislative bills. House Bill 1908. This was to put a surcharge on county water and sewer bills, whether they're billed separately or jointly together. And the idea was to put a surcharge set by the Commission Water Resource Management. The money would be collected by the respective county water and sewer departments, and that funds would be given to the Hawaii Community Development Authority. They would manage then a grant program back to the counties for funding, repair, maintenance, and construction of water and sewer infrastructure. Fortunately, we opposed this measure, but it did not actually get a hearing, so I think the measure may be dead for this session. So good news. All 4 county water departments were not in support, even Department of Environmental Services for the city and county of Honolulu. Also, the unique thing about 1908, any unused money on an annual basis for the fiscal year would revert back to the state general fund. I think that says it all for us, but fortunately it did not move forward. We will keep watch of it though throughout the session. Next is House Bill 2600. This was a bill that would propose to transfer the rate approval authority from the county boards of water supply or Department of Water to the State Public Utilities Commission. And this bill, all 4 county water departments testified against this bill. There was a hearing in the Water, Land, and Hawaiian Affairs Committee. The Public Utilities Commission did neither support it or oppose it, but expressed concerns about the impact on their resources and ability to take care of what they're already responsible for. Same thing with the Consumer Advocate of the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, expressed even stronger concern about the impact on resources to take on this effort. Fortunately, the committee heard us and elected to change the bill to a study. And it would only apply to populations of greater than 500,000 people, which is only Honolulu, Oahu, the island of Oahu. And I'm told by the Safe Drinking Water Program of the Department of Health that there would be actually 4 water systems, community water systems, that this would apply to for the DOH to do a study on our rate-making process. This did not get heard on the next committee, which is the Consumer Protection Committee. So we think this measure may be somewhat dead for the session. We'll still continue to watch it. Next.
Before you move on.
Yes, go ahead.
Just a question. Do you know who sponsored it and why? I mean, why are they targeting us on rate making and rate making authority?
We suspect, but we don't know for sure who actually was behind this bill. We basically spoke to almost everybody that signed the bill. That include, I think it was Sylvia Luke, the House Finance Chair, Ty Cullen, Representative. Who else was there? I think there were a few more that signed on. We actually had face-to-face, one-on-one meetings with them. It was going to apply to the whole state, but the real reason why it was there, I'm not completely sure. But I'd be glad to talk to you later about my guesses. I'd be reluctant to guess because I don't want to speculate.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
But we should do some research because it'll not go away. It'll come back, and we just want to know what its roots are so we can get to it.
One of the main points of our testimony that we submitted was that you just recently acted on some resolutions related to issuance of revenue bonds for the Fitch rating agency or rating company. They identify in their rating criteria rate-making autonomy. That's the autonomy that you currently enjoy. We currently enjoy with you folks as the board under the charter and under the HRS. They see it as a negative on the utility should that rate making, and they specifically name this, be transferred to some state regulatory commission. So they want the board to retain the authority to raise rates as necessary so that their investors in the bonds can be assured of payment. So basically a board that's willing to raise rates as necessary to take care of the water system and its operation. And I think that might have, and if we even lost 0.25% higher interest cost on the bonds, for $100 million, I had Joe, the waterworks controller, do a calculation for me. That would have added $5+ million of additional interest costs over the life of the bonds. And if we're looking at a $2.5 million program, $2.5 billion program over the next 10 years, half of that is funded, that much funded through bonds, then that would have been a substantial amount of millions of dollars of additional costs. So I would be glad to talk to you separately, remember soon later about this, but you're right, we need to stay vigilant about what's happening at the legislature, not just the city council. And I just want to say, I just thank Kathy Mitchell for the hard work she does in trying to monitor thousands of bills and try to keep on top of it. We also get good cooperation with the other three county water departments. We're all in this together. Next bill, 1696, relates to underground storage tanks. This would have basically required the Fuel Tank Advisory Committee to meet twice a year instead of once a year. The Fuel Tank Advisory Committee is created by the legislature, and right now we only meet once a year. There was pretty good support for this measure. Next is HB 2579. This would have required the Department of Health to go through a independent peer review process using an independent technical advisory committee whenever they want to look at changes to things like environmental action limits or drinking water toxicity levels. And the reason behind this measure, which was introduced by one of the House representatives, is the taste and odor in drinking water for TPH diesel was changed by the Department of Health from 100, I think, to 400. And it was done, we only learned about it after the fact. The drinking water toxicity level, I think, was changed from 160 parts per billion to 450 parts per billion. And this is related to the Red Hill fuel facility. So the long and short of it, it ended up being referred to the next committee on finance. Hasn't been heard yet. They basically changed this to requiring the health department to consult with the county boards of water, departments of water, or boards of water supply whenever they make these changes. Next, Senate Bill 2774. This one I know was introduced by Senator Mike Gabbard. Would have required the fuel tanks larger than 100,000 gallons or more, underground fuel tanks, are located MAUCA or above the underground injection control line, to be relocated by January 1st, 2028. This bill got a lot of support, but at the end of the day, the next committee elected not to hear the bill. So effectively, I think this bill may be dead for the session. We'll continue to monitor. There was no House companion on this bill. Next bill, 2775. Okay, so this one is also twice a year meetings for the Fuel Tank Advisory Committee. So very much like a House companion or a Senate companion to the other bill. Let's see. There was, lastly, I'll just end with this. There was a bill to require fluoridation of all county water departments, drinking water. The bill was, we opposed it. The bill was deferred in the Committee on Judiciary in the State Senate. There was strong testimony on both sides, but the majority of the testimony seemed to be against fluoridation. Our concern was this requirement would have been completely an unfunded mandate, and also would be against county home rule, because in the city and county of Honolulu, at least, there is an ordinance passed by the council that is law that prohibits adding other chemicals to the water except when it's related to the treatment of that water. And the fluoride has no reason except for dental health reasons for being with the drinking water. But the opinions are very strong on both sides and very passionate. And that's the legislative report. I think we're finishing up on the 5-day mandatory recess for the House and Senate.
All right, thank you for the report. Are there any questions, further questions? If not,
So 2774 and 2775, you think they're not going to hear that?
Can you bring it back up?
I believe they have until Thursday, because is this not the last committee? CPH is the last committee.
CPH might have been the last committee, yeah.
Yeah, so they have until Thursday, so.
Yeah. What we've found is that committee doesn't always take up these measures, but she did not hear it last week. Senator Baker didn't hear 2774 last week.
Yeah, but all they have to do is do a decision making.
Yeah.
That's all they got to do. They don't have to have a hearing on the second committee.
So
just kind of keep it.
We'll keep an eye. Good point.
It'll probably pop up at the last minute if she's going to hear it anyway. So.
Yeah. So we'll watch it very closely. Thank you. That's the report.
okay, any more questions? Okay, if not, we're gonna move on to the next item. The next item is indeed the Capital Improvement Program quarterly update. Chair recognizes Mr. Jason.
Good afternoon, Chair Andaya, board members. This is the quarterly update on the Capital Improvement Program for the quarter ending December 31st, 2019, so the second quarter of the fiscal year 2020. As you can see from this table, there were 10 contracts awarded, totaling just under $3 million. Also during the quarter, one construction project was completed, and the details are on this second sheet here showing the contract awards and the completed project. All right, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
If not, I'll just along Member Seward's comments earlier. So this is where you see where you have a total budget here of 143 million, and awarded to date is 7.4 million, and it's we've gone more than half the fiscal year. So we've got some catching up to do. It is, I know, I do realize after being on the board for quite some time, this is a normal pattern, and so hopefully we can hit the number at some point.
Yeah, it will be a very busy period from now to the end of the year. Thank you. Thank you for the reminder.
Thank you.
Thanks for the report. All right, next item we have here is the recruitment status, and Chair recognizes Ms. Michelle Thomas.
Good afternoon, Board Chair and Board members. My name is Michelle Thomas. I am the Chief Human Resources Officer for the Board of Water Supply. I'm here today to provide you with the recruitment status report for the period of November 2019 to January 2020. The first chart you'll see is basically a graphic chart of where we have gone over the last year with regards to our recruitment efforts. We've remained steady and tried to increase our positions, as you can see, over the last year. We have had quite a few retirements in this last quarter, so it is showing that we are moving on trying to fill our positions as we can. For the period of November 2019 to January 2020, we had 5 new hires, 5 promotions, 1 demotion, 1 transfer, 11 separations, 23 new approvals to fill, and 17 canceled requests. On the second page, we did actually add a little information on here as well with regards to our promotions, demotions, and transfers, so that way you guys would be able to have a little bit more information regarding what our internal movements are, which were lacking on the previous reports. We hope that'll help you with understanding of where we are with our activities internally. But as you can see, we did have quite a few internal movements as well as retirements in the December and November timeframe. And as a result, our movement of filling the positions hasn't been as large as we like, even though we have been filling them. Is there any questions?
Members? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much for the report. All right, moving on to the next report is the status update of groundwater levels at all index stations. Chair recognizes Mr. Barry Usagawa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. We have one aquifer index well in low groundwater status again for January. It's still Punaluu and just in the caution status. The monthly production average is down to 127 million gallons a month. As far as rainfall, just 117% of normal. 5-month moving average is just under normal. No dry conditions on the island. It is winter, and the National Weather Service is still predicting above normal rainfall, not just for February but through June. Keep monitoring the wells and water levels, but they're basically in stable conditions, and all is pretty typical for this time of year. It was just under, but Kailua is not. There's the rainfall totals and so we had some months where in the past fiscal year way above normal and under, so it's averaging around normal. Pretty fluctuating with 5-month moving average here. Pumpage is well under the average, so that's my report. Any questions?
Any idea on why the Punaluu is, that's the rainy side of the island?
Right. It is typical.
Curiosity kind of gets the best of me on that question.
Right. It was, and the pumpage is actually down, and it's in the 2 to 3 million gallons per day range. It used to be a lot higher, 4 to 5. It could be rainfall related, but the other check is Kailua, which is just a couple of miles and down gradient of Punaluu. That one is doing okay. So, we have been pumping it hard over the 4 or 5 decades of the Punaluu sources. But with conservation savings, we've been cutting back. So it used to be well into the alert and critical. So now it does fluctuate low.
So this is normal for Punaluu, son?
It used to be worse.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense being on that side of the island, more or less the rainy side, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm just curious. I mean,
Right.
why over the course of the last couple of measurements or whatever, it's been kind of critical.
And I agree that, usually, typically in the wintertime, it should, rise more.
Yeah.
But this winter, it has not. But in previous, last year, it was fairly high, so,
So speculating on why that
It's rainfall related and pumpage, so depending, if you go back historically over the year, there may have been a time when we had to pump it harder because of other sources could have been under maintenance and stuff, so that kind of, it used to be thicker, this land, so now it's fairly sensitive to pumping. So we just have to, this is one of those that we continue to watch particularly closely, as well as Kaimahi. Those typically are the first ones to drop into low groundwater, but yeah, it is questionable, so.
I have a question, Barry. Is the monthly production average of like 127 regular for winter? Because it seems kind of low.
Yeah, it has gone lower, but it's anything in the I've never seen it go below 120, but mid 120s during winter. But considering the rainfall has been about average, when it's really wet, it drops. Pumpage really drops, but we've been having on and off high rainfall months with low. But the 5-month moving, the 5-year monthly average is the check. So we've been having higher before if it's averaging at 132. So 127 is I mean, it's good for the resource. Less so for revenues, but anyway, the resource is doing fine, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions? If not, thank you very much for the report. We're going to move to the last item for information on the agenda today. That's the water main repair report for January 2020. Chair recognizes Mr. Mike Fuku.
Good afternoon, Chair and Dime, members of the board. During the month of January, we had 28 breaks. The break of that gives us a particular concern occurred on January 27th on Kawili Street in Waianae. This is a PVC main that has broken several times this past year. I know we got a project in there to replace the line, but for some reason, and we haven't really been nailing down why it's been breaking, but it is breaking and it is of particular concern. The leak detection team, before I get to the leak detection team, the average time for us to repair the 6, 8, and 12-inch mains was approximately 18 hours. The leak detection team surveyed 18 miles. They found four leaks that we addressed before it became a big problem. Any questions?
Mr. Fuki, the PVC pipe breakage in Waianae, do we have a pattern of breakage in these PVC material type pipes? Are they prone to?
We did a PVC pipe study a few years ago, and then that's when we recognized that we had some issues. When the pipes were initially installed, we learned a lot that the PVC pipe is what I call more delicate. You got to be a lot more careful how you handle it. Any kind of impingement on the pipe will lead to a break. Or if your bedding is not correct, it will also lead to a break. So we learned some of those things way back then, which we didn't know back then that we now know, that, so we're a lot more careful about how we install our mains, especially PVC pipe. Unfortunately, we've made some standards corrections not too long ago, but we will not see the real benefits if it really is effective until maybe all of us is not here. Hopefully, it'll go way past our time.
Well, it's some of the experience with premature breakage on the PVC pipe was occurring about 8 to 10 years of age. A lot earlier than we would have expected it, but like Mike said, the construction insulation, the quality of that insulation can have a really effect on the pipe. It's a lot more sensitive material, not as durable as a ductile iron pipe, but not subject to corrosion, but has to be installed very carefully. And when Mike talks about impingement, that's really something poking up against the pipe like a sharp point of a rock, aggregate, or a piece of hard coral or something. And that puts a stress point on the plastic pipe that eventually could lead to a failure. And with this type of PVC pipe, once it starts cracking at one location, then that crack can grow for the full length of the bill.
Full length of the pipe.
Which is about 20 feet long at times.
And do we know where all the PVC, like we have our entire network,
we know where
the PVC is?
Yeah, we have selected areas that are exhibiting this premature failure.
That's correct.
And in this Kawili area, we're actually looking to replace the pipeline with different material. We are going to be experimenting with newer versions of some of the PVC pipe that hopefully doesn't exhibit this type of break pattern.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to the end of our regular agenda. May I have a motion to enter into executive session? Second. Moved. Seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. All All right, let's prepare for executive session. Thank you, everybody.
Our mission at the Honolulu Board of Water Supply is to provide Oahu with safe, dependable, and affordable water now and into the future. A big part of what we do is educating the community about the importance of saving water through our annual Water Conservation Week poster and poetry contests. Each year, the students are great at answering the call. Our judges are always impressed with the thousands of vivid pieces of artwork as well as poems that demonstrate why saving water is important and why our water resources are precious to them. Education is a cornerstone of our outreach program, whether it's checking for leaks or water conservation in general. BWS takes time to be a part of the community and talking to people one-on-one. Preserving our water resource is everyone's kuleana. We offer outreach programs for the keiki all the way up to the kupuna. Our employees work together to come up with creative activities that demonstrate what the BWS does each and every day to pump millions of gallons of water and deliver it to where it is needed. These hands-on activities highlight how preserving our water resource is everyone's kuleana. Begin your journey to water conservation by joining the Board of Water Supply. BWS has career opportunities in customer care, information technology, field operations, and for civil, electrical, and mechanical engineers. To find current job openings, go to bwsjobs.com.
For water-saving tips, visit boardofwatersupply.com.
Every drop of water is part of a journey. It begins as water vapor that falls to earth as rain. For the next 25 years, it's filtered through volcanic rock. At last, it arrives at its final destination.
Really? Can somebody come fix this?
When it comes to water, don't waste a drop.